Hello crafters, sewers, and especially my sister's Embroidery Guild members on Long Island. Today I'm going to show you how to make a mug rug / name badge. Thanks for joining me. So as I said earlier, I'm going to teach you to make a mug rug which can be easily adapted to be a name badge. And if you don't know what a mug rug is, it's one of the beginner basic projects. It's just two pieces of fabric that are sewn together, and you can put your mug on it. With the addition of ribbon, you can make it into a name badge. And this is my name badge for my embroidery club. I'm in a machine embroidery club. And it was actually my first homework assignment for the machine embroidery club. So as you can see, it's just two pieces of fabric with my name embroidered on the front, and then I can hang it around my neck. So come on, I'll show you how to do it. So here's what you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need your piece of embroidery. I don't embroider, but this is the Aida cloth, and it's the raw size that you would have embroidered on. Then you're going to need the backing, the fabric that you're going to use for your name tag. I have a fabric that has a print on one side and the other side does not have a print, so it'll be a little clearer what we're doing. The next thing is some interfacing. I have iron-on non-woveable interfacing that I'm going to use. And then you'll need ribbon for the neck piece. This is just a little piece of decorative ribbon I've got. It's grosgrain ribbon. So here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the iron-on interfacing roughly to the size of my fabric. And to do that, we want to make sure that we've got the shiny side on the side of the fabric, that you're the wrong side, that you're not going to see. So I've got it laid out on my cutting table, and actually I am right-handed, so I usually cut the other way. Here we go. And I want it slightly less than the fabric. So I'm using my grid lines. I'm going to bring the fabric down about 1/8 of an inch less. And then I get my cutting, what is this called? My rotary cutter. And just zip. And then zip the other side. You don't have to be precise here. And there we go. And now I'm going to take it to my ironing board and iron on this interfacing, and it's pretty stiff. Okay, so I've finished ironing it, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is within about 1/8 of an inch of the edges, all except for this last piece here, but that's okay. You just have to be really careful not to iron it directly onto your ironing board, or you are going to have an ironing board cover with sticky stuff on it, because it will transfer right onto your ironing board cover and adhere, and then you have to peel it up. So I knew I wasn't going to use this. I just went up to it but not over it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is take our Aida cloth, and with our design on it, which obviously I don't have, but we're going to lay it over and center your design on one piece of the front. You want your design outward, not on the inside. You want it on the outside, and you want it on the front of your fabric. So I am going to let my my embroidery design on the Aida cloth determine how big I'm making my name tag. And right now, as you can see, it's covering on all sides, all three sides, my backing fabric. So what I'm going to do, and I'm using my grid lines, what I'm going to do is just cut this. We want it square. Okay, and then we're going to take this piece, and again I'm using my grid lines, and my backing piece is kind of a little off kilter, so I am just using the bottom grid lines and the side grid lines, and I'm going to put this other piece face down on top. And again, I'm going to try to have it line up with the grid lines on my cutting board. So, and my Aida cloth is extending a little bit beyond. That's okay. And now we're going to cut this and make it as square as possible. Okay. Now I'm going to square off the entire thing. So I'm going to cut, and again, make sure that your embroidery design on your Aida cloth, or whatever design you have, is centered on the inside. And you want to have enough margin that you're not going to be cutting into it or sewing into it. Okay. And then we're going to go right over here. Pardon my back. I guess I should have put a new blade in my rotary cutter before I started. And then the last one. So this is going to make this very square, not square in shape, it'll be rectangular, but you know, the sides are squared off. Okay, there we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is get our ribbon, and we're going to put the ribbon inside this sandwich of Aida cloth and backing cloth. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how I measure the ribbon. It is not anything scientific or difficult. You just put it around your neck and you figure out about where you want your name tag to hang. Mine is just above my chest, and then you want to get like a couple fingers widths more, so that that will be the part that is sewn in to your name tag so that it can attach. Now there is one other item that is helpful. You don't need it, but I prefer to use it. This is wash away double-sided tape, and this is how I'm going to attach the ribbon into the name tag so it doesn't move when I sew. But you can use pins if you want. I just prefer to use this double-sided sticky tape. It is in quilting supplies. I get mine off of Amazon. I get most of my stuff off of Amazon. But yeah, it's great stuff. So here we go. This is what we want to do. Now, you're going to be sewing this so that you're sewing on the wrong side, and when you're done you turn it inside out to the right side, which means that you want your ribbon all on the inside. Make sure that it's not turned or twisted or whatever, because you know you want it to be nice when you're done. I am going to use my grid lines once again to get it just where I want it. And here's this double-sided sticky tape. I'm going to bring it in here, and I've got, it doesn't really matter what you use as the inside or the outside, but I'm going to put the sticky tape right at the edge. Now remember, this is wash away sticky tape, so it will wash away, but you want it close to the edge so that you don't have a whole lot of it there. And it's wider than the ribbon, which is fine, the amount that I'm putting on. It'll also help hold the edges together. Okay, there's the tape. And now I have to peel away one side so that the stickiness is removed on the other side. Okay, now this is where it does matter if you have a ribbon that has two sides. My ribbon does have a right side and a wrong side. I want the right side to go around my neck. So what I'm going to do is, we have to know where our the front of our design is, and the front of my design is here. I'm sorry I don't have the actual embroidery on it. So if that's the right side, we want when it comes up to be like that. It takes a little bit of mental work to do this, but I'm going to turn it around, and again I'm using my grid lines. I'm having it extend about 1/2 inch, and then again you want to make sure that this is not twisted in any way, but I'm just going to kind of accordion fold it so that I don't sew over it when I'm sewing. And then this is 1 inch in, so 1 inch in there. And then I'm just going to push the rest of it in here and make sure my sides line up. There we go. Now is a good time to get the rest of my sides together in preparation for sewing. Okay, so I have two methods I use to hold my edges together. One of them is my pins, and the other is Wonder Clips. It's 6 to 1/2 dozen to the other, but today I'm going to use Wonder Clips. So I'm just going to clip it, making sure that it's even. I don't need to clip way in, but we also want to make sure that that ribbon is not anywhere near the sewing area. And you don't need a lot of Wonder Clips. I do on something small like this, 3, as you can see. But again, I'm checking to make sure that the ribbon is nicely tucked inside and not anywhere near the area that I'm going to sew on. Now when I sew, I'm going to sew 3½ sides, and I will explain what that means in just a minute, and then you'll see how it works. But you do need to leave some of the side open to turn it. So here we go. See, that's all tucked nicely in there. Hopefully you can see that. And then here's the last bits. And I'm going to start sewing here, go up, around, down, and end here. And this I'm going to leave open so that we can turn it inside out, or right side out I should say. And let's go to the sewing machine. So here we are at the sewing machine. Hopefully you can see this okay. Once again, we are going to sew starting here and continuing around that your ribbon is not in the path of your sewing needle. So, and I just use a regular stitch for this. Okay, so we're going to take that off. And I like to sew, and let's see if I can get the camera around here. I like to sew so that the edge of my fabric is right along the edge of my presser foot and my needle's in the center position. Hopefully you could see that. Okay. And we are going to back stitch for this. We want to make this stitch very stable. So I'm going to sew this, and I will be back once I've got this sewn. So now we have our 3.5 size sewn. I'm just going to snip that little bit. And what we're going to do is turn it inside out. But before I turn it inside out, it's always a good idea to just clip these corners so that they turn a little more nicely. And actually, I don't want to use my thread snips. I want to use my regular shears. So we're just going to snip these corners, and then you don't have so much bulk on the corners. Be careful not to snip through the sewing though. And I'm going to just kind of snip that a little bit too. Okay, and now we're going to turn it inside out. Now we have put very heavy duty stabilizer on here, so it's going to be a little tough to turn it inside out, and make sure that you have left enough room to turn it inside out. And yes, your embroidered design is going to get all mushed while you do this. Always a hard thing to do. Okay, that took me a good bit of time, and I'm still not completely done with it, but it is very difficult. And it does take some pushing and pulling and prodding, but perseverance pays off. And look at that. I did not put the ribbon on correctly. So the instructions I gave you for the ribbon that has an obvious right and wrong side, not a good thing. Reverse it. I'm sorry. So I have this, which I use as a turner. to get the corners. I also have a knitting needle that I'll use. You want to be careful not to poke through. There's a sharp edge and a rounded edge, and it's probably best if I just use the rounded edge to just kind of push this all so that I don't pop through the Aida cloth or the fabric. And honestly, if you used a less stiff interfacing, it wouldn't be this difficult, quite this difficult. You can also leave more of an opening here. I don't like to leave too much of an opening. I like to leave just the right amount because we're going to need to sew over this. And the less of an opening, the better your finished product will look, unless you're really, really good at turning things under, because what you're going to need to do is turn it under and sew. Okay, and you can use this to a certain degree to pull it out. Okay, I'm going to finish doing this, and then I'm going to show you how to finish it off. Okay, so I have finished turning it. Once again, it's probably best if you use a ribbon that is not double-sided, that it is the same on both sides, because then you don't have to worry about which side. But this is the side of my Aida cloth where my design would be. Now the next thing we need to do is sew this bottom closed, but before we do it, we need to just iron it so that it's turned the same amount as the rest here. So I'm going to go iron it, and I'll be right back. Alright, I've got this ironed now, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom in the corner and just sew a border all the way around to close it up. So let's get the camera set up so you can see that. Now this time I'm going to move my needle all the way over to the right, and again I'm keeping my presser foot and my fabric in line, and I am sewing on the side where my design is on the Aida cloth. And again, I'm sorry I don't have a design, but this is where your design would be. You don't need to back stitch. So there it is. Here is your name tag, badge that you can wear around your neck with your design. Hopefully you've got a beautiful design. And if you want to do a mug rug, it's exactly the same, except for you would want it square and no ribbon. Thanks for watching.